So for a brief moment in the morning, my players could see the town of Outskirts off in the distance and see that it was under siege. For 6 hours, they traveled as fast as they could on their airship, coming to the town with the knowledge that they were probably going to encounter the enemy airship and all of their forces. By the time they reached the town, the siege was nearly over. The party is moving quickly through the dense fog. They're fairly certain it's too late. I can see the palisade coming into view, with visibility down to about 5 meters. It's hard to make out any clear details, but it looks like the windmill is on fire. Suddenly, the sound of something massive falling to the ground. The sound of a child screaming up in the air, screaming for their mother, and then another sound off to the left, like footsteps. They don't know exactly what's going on, but my players know that the town of Outskirts has been destroyed. This is a town that they have worked tirelessly and with a lot of effort to build up over the last few months in our campaign. But this was an inevitable course of action. See, my players, about a week or so ago, killed a spy in the town. And that spy didn't send out messages like they were supposed to. This is probably the biggest encounter that we've ever played out in a tabletop RPG. There's a lot of pieces on the board right now. There's 2 airships, there's a dragon, there's a massive iron titan. My players have a small troop of soldiers with them, and the enemy has a larger troop of soldiers with them. There are several magical elements as well. Coming out of our last game session with a intense cliffhanger and going into our next game session has left me with a lot of anxiety. I don't know if you feel that way whenever you're preparing for a tabletop RPG. You're getting your game ready. In the past, when we've played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I've done some pretty big combats, and we had a lot of fun with those big combats. Like using terrain and big towers and stuff, and players are jumping. Those are fun, and I really enjoy them. But the problem with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition when we played it before is it just turned it into a war game, right? Because it kind of seems to naturally do that. I don't want to recreate that experience where we have a 3-hour game that is just 4 rounds of combat. That's really torturous, actually. The players don't seem to enjoy it. I don't really enjoy it. There's great funny moments that break out of those things, but it's not the kind of thing that I'd like to play in a tabletop RPG. Which brings me to this coming Saturday's game. This situation that is ongoing in the town of Outskirts, in my mind, is the most daunting and debilitating situation that we've ever come to. There are so many assets on the field that I needed to break things down for myself, right? So I decided to make a list of things that I need to prepare for, and I'm starting pretty quickly in. Normally, I don't start preparing until Friday or Saturday, right? I spend some time making note cards like these for NPCs, but this one I'm no, I'm already anxious, right? There's some stuff that I need to do, and so I want to prepare early. So I made a list of things that I need to do to prepare. And surprisingly, that list was actually only 3 things. One of the 3 things that I decided I needed to do was to make airship mechanics. There's 2 airships in this combat scenario, and I wanted to make sure I created them in the game. So first I started looking at other systems, could I just port in some other system's airship mechanics? Wild Sea, or Into the Odd, or Between the Stars. There's a bunch of different systems I can just grab a ship system from. After talking with a friend from my Discord server, I came to the idea that I'm going to design the airships the way the monsters are designed in Dragonbane. In Dragonbane, the monsters run by a D6 table. So you just roll a d6, and whatever you come up with, that's what the monster is doing. It keeps combat moving pretty quickly, and it also makes it so that the game is surprising and fun, both for the Dungeon Master and for the players. They'll basically operate like monsters in Dragonbane, and they'll have 6 things that they can do, keeps them moving pretty simply. The other thing that I really needed to do was get a clear idea of where all the NPCs are. Since Outskirts is the town my players have been playing with for a lot of the game, there's a lot of NPCs that they've met and encountered throughout the region of the Misty Vale, and they've brought them back to Outskirts. that means that that town is just filled with different characters. There's a long list of characters that are there, and I had to recognize that these are all characters that are being captured, and so they have their own agency in the situation. So first I broke down the list into 4 categories. All the NPCs, and one of 4 things is happening to them. They are captured, which means they're probably on the airship. They are injured, which means they're probably not going to be part of the fight, or they could, but they might just be killed. They are hiding, which means, you know, they are actually an asset that could contribute to the fight in some way, or they're dead. Those are the 4 options, and once I worked out what was going on with all the NPCs, I kind of had a clear understanding of which characters might be able to participate in the fight and which ones won't, which ones need to escape from being in prison, and that sort of thing. And then the last thing was actually a physical thing. For Christmas, my son asked everyone he knew to give him more Tower Rex terrain tiles. So a bunch of people did that. We got, like, you know, blacksmith shop and a church and a bunch of different locations that I'm going to spend some time working on this week to put together. I'm going to glue them all together and hopefully be able to build out the town of Outskirts in a more physical way. I mostly just need the main town square, because I think that's where a lot of the fight's going to happen. The reason I wanted to make sure I prepared these 3 things and get them, like, locked in my brain, again, as I told you, this is a big encounter. It's probably the biggest encounter we've had in any of our games, even in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We had big encounters in D&D 5th edition, but not like airships and dragons and, you know, iron golems. Oh my, this one's big. And since it's big, I don't want to just be arbitrarily deciding what a thing can do or can't do in the moment. And the reason I don't want to do that is because I want this fight to matter. I could just make up what the airships do in the moment. And I know I could just roll a dice and be like, 10 damage, right? You know, just arbitrarily do it. But I also recognize that this situation might kill characters, player characters or non-player characters. And my players at the table value both of those things immensely. They value the NPCs that they've met along the way that have, you know, storied background with their characters, and they value the characters that they're playing. So if any of those characters are going to be dying in this combat, and they might, I want there to be an adjudication of how it happens. So I've designed a few mechanics for the airships that I think will make it somewhat fair, even though my players have a weaker airship than the one that is on the field. And I've also designed some mechanics for all the NPCs that exist in the world. In our previous games, a lot of times our combats come down to this, like, 3-hour or 4-hour slog, where 4 to 5 rounds happen in a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game, and it kind of turns into a tactical war game. I really don't want that to happen this time, so I've taken into account the fact that there's a dense fog in the area. Because of the dense fog, that means I don't actually have to be showing my players everything going on. In fact, I'm probably not going to put assets on the table until they get to my players. Because of the fact that my players won't really know where things are, if I can keep it narratively focused, describing for my players things that they're hearing off in the distance, shouts or metal screeching or flames going by, if I keep everything more descriptive and allow my players to make choices in the moment with limited information, my hope is that things will move quickly, right? But there's also difficulty in that because I'm kind of adding a mechanic to the fight. Now, it's going to affect both the bad guys and the good guys, so I'm hoping that also plays out in a fair way. This is a fight that my players aren't going to win easily. And it's also quite possible that this fight will lead to a total party kill, which I'm not looking forward to. Now that I've explained all this, I hope you kind of understand some of the anxiety that I'm feeling. You know, I mean, like, what gets you anxious in your preparation for a game? You know a game's coming up. Before the game happens, do you get, you know, like the wartime jitters? Obviously, I'm being silly, but you know that's kind of the point, right? There's something that I'm feeling that is like stage fright almost. Do you know what I mean? Like it almost feels like I have a performance coming up this week. And now I know that game masters are supposed to show up to the table like a player, right? I know that I'm supposed to be coming here with a story to help my players play, but this is a lot of stuff stacked up, right? And if I just make it up in the moment and I get characters killed, that sucks. And if I just make it up in the moment and no one dies, that sucks. to me, it felt like the responsibility was on me to design some things in the game, to organize things that were in the game, and to build some things for the game, so that when this game happens, I'm not leaning into making things up. I'm playing things out. Hopefully, I can do it in a way where it doesn't turn into like a Warhammer game, and we got like 4 rounds going for 4 hours. That sucks. While my players are making their choices and doing things in the world, I'm gonna be just rolling behind my screen and solving other things going on. And what I'm going to do is make myself some of these index cards with blocks on them of troops of the enemies, troops of my players, get all the NPCs that could potentially join in the fight and probably will, and just start working out the things that they're doing. So that while my players are making choices, in the middle of the fight, they'll hear something over there. Is that Badendor's voice? Sounds like he's in danger, right? Like, now we gotta run over there. And they're gonna be just following sounds the whole fight. And the enemies are gonna be kind of doing the same thing too. So, I don't know if do you know what I mean? I'm obviously nervous. How do you deal with your anxiety when you're preparing for a session of a tabletop RPG? What things going on in the game generally cause you to feel anxious? I would be interested to hear your thoughts and comments and suggestions about what you do to wrestle with anxiety in pre-game preparation. Do you make fists with your toes? If you like these question videos being edited this way with, the overlays and music and stuff, let me know by hitting the like button, and I'll continue to do that. And if you don't like this, then tell me down in the comments just to keep it simple. Anyways, I'm interested to hear your suggestions and thoughts on pre-game preparation anxiety. How do you deal with it? When do you get it? God bless you. God bless you. And have a good week.